February 17th, 1932, 3:47 a.m. A black Cadillac tears through Newark's snow-covered streets, bullets shattering the rear window. Inside, Ruggiero Richie the Boot Boiardo, 42 years old, bleeds from 12 gunshot wounds across his chest, arms, and legs. His driver floors the accelerator toward Newark City Hospital as Boiardo's blood pools on the leather seats. The Jewish mob had just tried to execute him in the most ambitious assassination attempt in Newark's history. They failed, and that failure would cost them everything. When Boiardo walked out of that hospital 6 weeks later, he didn't just survive, he declared war. Within 18 months, he would control every gambling den, every speakeasy, every politician, and every police captain in Newark, New Jersey. He would turn America's third largest city into his personal kingdom, operating with such absolute power that mayors took orders from him and FBI agents couldn't get within 10 blocks of his headquarters without being spotted. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. But here's what makes this story different from every other mob tale you've heard. Boiardo didn't rule through fear alone. He built something unprecedented in American organized crime, a shadow government so sophisticated that it lasted 50 years. He owned judges who fixed trials. He controlled police chiefs who destroyed evidence. He had politicians on payroll who changed laws to benefit his operations. And he did it all while looking like a mild-mannered businessman who sold insurance and attended Mass every Sunday. This is the story of how a 5'4" Sicilian immigrant became more powerful than the mayor of America's 10th largest city. How he survived gang wars that killed dozens of men. How he built a criminal empire that generated over $50 million annually in 1,930 seconds money. And how he proved that real power doesn't announce itself, it just collects. November 8th, 1890. Naples, Italy. Ruggiero Boiardo was born into poverty in a neighborhood where survival meant understanding who held real power. His father worked the docks. His mother took in laundry. Young Richie learned early that respect wasn't earned through loud talk or flashy displays. It came from being indispensable to the right people. In 1910, at age 20, Boiardo stowed away on a cargo ship bound for New York. He arrived in Newark with nothing but the clothes on his back and a letter of introduction to distant relatives in the First Ward Newark's Little Italy. The neighborhood was controlled by multiple gangs, fighting over bootlegging territory, gambling operations, and protection rackets. Richie started as a milkman, delivering bottles door to door while studying how power really worked in America. He noticed something other young criminals missed. The loudest gangsters, the ones who dressed flashy, drove expensive cars, threw their weight around. They were the first ones the police arrested. The real bosses stayed invisible. They dressed like accountants. They lived modestly. They let others take credit while they collected profits. By 1915, Boiardo had built a small bookmaking operation. Nothing elaborate, just taking bets from dock workers and factory hands. But he ran it with mathematical precision. He paid winners immediately. He collected debts politely but firmly. He never drew attention to himself. When Prohibition began in 1920, Boiardo was perfectly positioned for what came next. The alcohol ban created the greatest criminal opportunity in American history. Overnight, every drink became illegal, which meant every drink became profitable. Newark sat at the crossroads of major shipping routes from Canada and Europe. Boiardo understood geography better than his competitors. While other gangs fought over local speakeasies, he built smuggling networks that moved Canadian whiskey through Newark's ports to distribution points across New Jersey and New York. His operation was methodical. Boiardo established relationships with dock workers who unloaded furniture shipments that clinked when moved. He bought legitimate trucking companies to transport cases of olive oil that smelled suspiciously like bourbon. He opened insurance agencies and construction companies that existed solely to launder bootlegging profits. By 1925, the FBI estimated Boiardo's organization moved 10,000 cases of illegal alcohol monthly, generating over $2 million annually, equivalent to $30 million today. But bootlegging attracted competition. Abner Longes Willman controlled Jewish organized crime in Newark. He was everything Boiardo wasn't: tall, charismatic, flashy. He drove a custom Packard, wore $500 suits, dated Hollywood starlets. Zwillman saw Boiardo as a threat to his supremacy. In 1931, he decided to eliminate the competition permanently. The war began with small provocations: hijacked trucks, burned speakeasies, missing enforcers. But on February 17, 1932, Zwillman made it personal. His gunmen ambushed Boiardo outside Villa Vittoria, his restaurant headquarters. They pumped 12 bullets into him at point-blank range and left him for dead in the snow. They miscalculated. Boiardo's survival wasn't just physical, it was psychological warfare. He returned to the streets 6 weeks later, walking without a cane, conducting business as usual. The message was clear: you can't kill the boot. His enemies had shown their hand and failed. Now it was his turn. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Boiardo's retaliation was systematic. He didn't just kill Zwillman's lieutenants, he corrupted them. He offered police protection, better territories, guaranteed profits. Half of Zwillman's crew switched sides within 6 months. By 1934, Zwillman was forced to negotiate a truce that left Boiardo controlling 70% of Newark's organized crime. This victory established Boiardo's reputation, but it was his next move that made him legendary. Rather than expand into other cities, he decided to own Newark completely. His strategy was brilliant in its simplicity: control the people who controlled the city. Boiardo mapped Newark's power structure like a military campaign. He identified every elected official, every police captain, every judge, every union leader, every newspaper editor who mattered. Then he systematically bought, blackmailed, or intimidated each one. A police captain's gambling debts disappeared in exchange for ignoring bootlegging trucks. A judge's son got out of trouble in exchange for favorable rulings. A mayor's campaign received anonymous donations in exchange for friendly policies. By 1935, Boiardo's influence reached every level of Newark government. Police raids were called off with a phone call. Grand jury investigations stalled mysteriously. Witness statements disappeared from evidence rooms. Boiardo had created something unprecedented: a parallel government that operated more efficiently than the official one. His headquarters at Villa Vittoria became Newark's real city hall. Politicians scheduled meetings around Boiardo's availability. Police captains reported significant arrests to him before their own superiors. Union leaders cleared major decisions through his representatives. He held court daily from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., listening to requests, settling disputes, making decisions that affected hundreds of thousands of lives. The operation's sophistication was stunning. Boiardo employed accountants who tracked every payoff. He had lawyers who identified legal vulnerabilities. He maintained detailed files on every public official's weaknesses: gambling habits, extramarital affairs, financial problems. When federal investigators arrived in Newark, they found a city where nobody saw anything, nobody heard anything, and nobody knew anything about organized crime. But Boiardo's greatest weapon wasn't corruption, it was legitimacy. He served on charity boards. He donated to Catholic churches. He sponsored community events. When Newark needed new playgrounds, Boiardo's construction companies built them at cost. When immigrant families faced eviction, Boiardo's loan officers worked out payment plans. He made himself indispensable to the community while remaining invisible to law enforcement. By 1940, FBI reports estimated Boiardo controlled gambling operations, generating $5 million annually. Loan sharking networks worth $10 million, labor rackets producing $3 million, and legitimate businesses earning $15 million. His total annual income exceeded $30 million, making him wealthier than most Fortune 500 executives. Yet Boiardo lived like a middle-class businessman. He drove a 3-year-old Buick. He lived in a modest house on Summer Avenue. He wore conservative suits from local tailors. FBI surveillance photos from the 1,940 seconds show a small, unassuming man who looked like someone's grandfather, not America's most powerful crime boss. The federal heat intensified in the 1,950 seconds. The Kefauver Committee exposed organized crime on television. The FBI created specialized organized crime units. New surveillance technologies made traditional operations riskier. Younger criminals like his son Anthony wanted flashier operations, bigger territories, more violence. But Boiardo understood that visibility meant vulnerability. In 1970, at age 80, Boiardo officially retired. He'd survived Prohibition, World War II, multiple federal investigations, 3 major gang wars, and countless assassination attempts. He controlled Newark for 40 years without spending a day in federal prison. His organization continued under his son's leadership, but with less sophistication and more heat. Ruggiero Richie the Boot Boiardo died peacefully in his sleep on October 29, 1984. He was 93 years old. His funeral drew over 2,000 mourners, including dozens of politicians, judges, and police officers who owed their careers to his influence. The FBI photographed everyone, creating the largest organized crime database in Newark's history. What made Boiardo different? He understood that real power doesn't need recognition. While other mobsters sought fame, he sought control. While they bought luxury cars, he bought politicians. While they made headlines, he made money. While they went to prison, he went to church. Boiardo proved that in America, you don't need to control Washington to control power. You just need to control the people who control your city. For 50 years, he was the invisible king of Newark, and nobody saw him coming until it was too late to stop him.